Hi there, and welcome to the 12th episode of Career Stories Live. So I'm really pleased today to have Charlotte Watchorn with me. So we've had a comment income already from Jeff, who's saying, greetings, Sarah and Lottie, as Sarah called you, which I did in one of our posts. So Lottie and I have been friends for a long time. So hi, Lottie, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure. Nice to meet you, Jeff.
Excellent. Okay, so as always, please do comment to let us know that you're here, like Jeff has just done, where you're joining from, and feel free to ask any questions as we go through. So as I said, we met in about 2016. So Lottie was working with my husband at the time and persuaded him to get me to come and join her running club. So we used to run together for quite a long time. So we've done marathon training together and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've run a lot of miles together, haven't we?
I did, pushing your pushchair, I remember.
Yeah, pushchair, dog, whatever the weather, we would go, wouldn't we?
I know, crazy. I see a couple of comments have come through. And so Alison is saying afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Tina, so Tina.
Wow. Hello, Tina. Nice from the face from the past.
There you go. So the basis for these live events, really, I'm really interested in talking to people about what they do and why they do it. So that's kind of the idea for the show, really. And the idea is to give people information about particular sectors and just to get some advice, really, from people that are doing those kind of roles. So I can see more comments are coming in. So we've got Craig. So Craig was on last week. Hi, Craig. Nice to see you back again. And John is saying, I'm good here. Good to see you. So I haven't come across Lottie, or is it Lottie before? Cheers. So I've always said why. Lottie with a Y, actually. Is that right?
Yeah, with a Y.
And Paul's saying hi. So thank you, everybody. So Lottie is currently the UK General Manager at Nordic Pharma, and she's one of the few people I know that's worked their way up in one industry, and that's why it's really interesting today. So just to talk about that. So more comments are coming through. Just have a quick look at those. So we've got Lindsay from South End, worked with Lottie for over 4 years. Oh, nice to see you.
Yeah, Lindsay's good to see.
And Tanya.
Oh, nice to see Tanya. Really nice to see her face. Hello.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got lots of people watching. That's really great. Thank you very much. So let's get started then, Lottie. So do you want to give us an overview of what it is you do now in your role as UK General Manager?
Yeah. It sounds really glamorous, but, I still empty the dishwasher every morning in the office, which people will laugh at when I interview people. But yeah, so I work for a small, medium, privately owned pharmaceutical company. And it's different to big pharmaceutical companies because it's got a nice history of where it does a lot of its own internal product development and acquisitions. So I manage the UK business. We're relatively small business in the UK compared to, again, some of the bigger corporations I've worked with. But actually, the UK is the biggest second market for Nordic Pharma globally. And we commercialise pharmaceutical products predominantly. So we've got pharmaceutical products across several disease areas in rheumatology, women's health, ophthalmology and critical care. But actually, we also have some products that wouldn't be classed as a pharmaceutical, so a medicine. So we also have some devices for patients undergoing cataract surgery in the ophthalmology business unit. And then we also have some probiotics that we sell to the market, which I find absolutely fascinating. There's loads at the moment about the importance of keeping your gut microbiome healthy. So we're looking to expand in that in the future. So we basically commercialise products and mainly prescription products, so prescribed by either hospital staff and doctors or GPs. And so I suppose what I try to do in my role, I'm relatively new GM still, but I try to balance setting the strategic direction for the organisation. So, making sure that we're on target. We need to hit a sales target every year, and we're now looking at extending, what that might look like in the next 3 to 5 years. With then balancing it with the day-to-day activities. Naturally, it's a ethical industry, so we have lots of governance that we need to abide by. We're governed by the MHRA, which is the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Agency. So we need to make sure that our products are of good quality and comply before we put them on market. So we have a regulatory team and quality team that looks after that, to then commercialising the products. I just said to you offline, looking at our performance, we're impacted by supply at the moment. So, every day is a bit of a firefighting around making sure we've got products to be able to fulfill prescriptions for patients who need it. So trying to, like I say, balance that kind of strategic intent of what we want to do and having that vision and implementing it, but then also managing the day-to-day activities.
Excellent, thank you. Very comprehensive. Thank you very much. So George has popped in, so it's great to see you, Lottie. So nice to see you,
Hello,
George. Okay, so how did you start out your career?
By accident, like most people. Unlike my sister, I expect she'll listen back if she's not listening now. So it's always enviable. I've got two sisters, both of them, but Diana in particular, she always knew she wanted to be a lawyer. From a really young age, I didn't even know what it was. She knew what she wanted to do, and she followed that career, and has a really successful career in that. But I fell into the pharmaceutical industry by accident. So I was at university, made some lifelong friends, and one of those friends lived actually really close to our campus. So she didn't live in halls with us, and she kind of took us under her wing. We used to go back for Sunday lunch, and her dad was managing director of a pharmaceutical company. And over the years, he just, he always used to say to me, if you don't know what you want to be, come and be a pharmaceutical representative. You'd be brilliant. So he kindly opened my eyes to an industry I never knew existed, into jobs I never knew were there. And so from that, I then knew, again, one of my sister's friends, colleagues was in the industry. So, I spent some time with him talking me through what it actually was. And then I left uni, moved to university, moved to London with my sister Diana. We lived in Clapham. I got my first job, a little red Polo, not quite yours, Sarah, but a little red Polo. I used to drive around southwest London, going to see GPs and consultants selling, at the time it was anti-infectives and statins, and thoroughly loved it. It was a great job. You had to be self-motivated. You had to get up early in the morning to try and be the first people to see the doctors before surgery. I'm a morning person, so it suited me. So that's how I got into it. Never looked back, really. I enjoy the industry and what it has to offer.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. I can see a few more comments coming through. So Jeff is saying, how big of an industry is pharmaceutical in the UK, dollars wise? It's a big question. Have you got any idea on that, Lottie?
Gosh, no, I don't. But you're talking multiple billions. And some of the big companies that Jeff will know in this, from the States. So and some of the healthcare industries like Abbott and Johnson & Johnson, they're just as big as here. Glaxo obviously are two big UK companies.
Excellent, thank you. And so we've got Charlotte saying, afternoon lady, so thanks for dropping in. Tim is saying good to be here. Hi Tim. And then there's a chat going on between Paul and Charlotte there. Leave them to it. Excellent. Okay. So it's kind of your network then, I guess, that found you that first role.
Yeah. Okay. It is. I'm a really big believer in network, and I didn't realise until I left large pharmaceutical corporations to join a startup the importance of a network. And because I think when you work for a big organisation, you have this infrastructure around you. So you have, like when I worked at Boehringer, Paul was, in the business analytic team, George online and supply, you had all these people who were there playing that role. And yes, you might play a role in conducting it, but at some point, but people were very specific in their roles, I suppose, to help that kind of vertical integration. But I left and went to a startup where I didn't, it'd already been trading for a few years, and I then went where I had hardly any budget, and I had to make those things. I remember ringing up someone in my network saying, I need to recruit, but I haven't got a recruitment budget. Can you help me? But, and going, we're going to be a big organization at some point, and just relying on that. And, I've got, people at different, data houses that help me and still do. And and my current I was going to say my current boss, but she's not. She's been promoted recently to the global CEO. But Charlotte, who I work with, I learned that from her. And secondly, I learned from her around, making sure you're fair in business too. So, treating people as you would expect, outside work, as you would in work, to, expand that network.
Excellent. So as I've said already, we used to run a lot and talk about careers quite a lot, and you've always had some kind of clear goals. But have you always had a clear goal of where you wanted to be in your career, or has it kind of evolved as you've gone along?
Yeah, it's evolved as I've gone along. I was trying to think about this, and I was thinking, when I remember being at my first sales conference, which actually was my first day in the industry. This is why I knew it was the industry for me, because I went to a conference. I'd only ever met my recruiting manager. So I turn up in a hotel in Nottingham and I sit in the auditorium not knowing anyone. And then Jensen Button came on stage with a Formula One car, and it was all about, speed and different things like this. And I was just like, this is amazing. Times have changed, very much so. But yeah, so, and I was thinking, did I sit there going, I want to be those people on the stage? Probably not, because I don't overly like the spotlight, which is why I've got sweaty hands talking to you now. I do look back and I think I do like leading, whether that's, with authority or without, and I remember fighting really hard at school to make sure I was head girl and the captains of the sports teams. So there's something there, I think, about, wanting to be in the kind of, in a leading role and help people along the way. But I've never had that clear goal in my career. And actually, one of my really good friends who I worked with again at Boehringer, and she's now a friend, Amanda, said to me when I've been at crossroads around what career choices, she said, you may not know where you want to be in 5 years' time. She said, but whatever role you take, she said, whatever direction you're traveling, make sure you know what the next step is you want. So your immediate then decision in front of you helps to inform whether that's going to help you get there or not. And I still use that advice with other people I work with, and they're at crossroads going, okay, you need to think about, what you want to do, and your career coach, hey, but so you're more qualified than I, but it was helpful advice that I still have. And when I think about things, I think, oh, well, will it get me to where, that kind of next step? Yeah.
That's really good. And I think fewer people now are having those kind of 5-10 year plans, because I guess the world of work changes so much now, doesn't it? And you're not necessarily in a job for as long as you used to be anyway. So I think being kind of 2 steps ahead is a really good strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see a couple more comments are coming through. So Paul saying, Pharma in the UK has got a great network. I was always bumping into familiar faces wherever I went.
Yeah.
And then Craig is saying, I tried to work in pharma many years ago, but without industry experience, it was impossible. Is that different today?
Yeah, it's still really tough. And I think you need, it's opportunistic. I think actually it's got tougher because, I went through being, medical representative and then worked my way up. There's really skillful, roles around like digital marketing now, which, the industry is desperate to have from other areas, but it's that catch-22 because how you might sell a chocolate bar is completely different to how you might sell pharmaceutical because of the governance around it. You can't promote to patients directly, and so some companies find that really difficult to, I think, to take people that haven't got that experience. So it is difficult. I mean, we've taken a colleague on called Joe, and left university as an English student, and he worked for a small company, and then we were desperate for a junior marketeer and someone to just come and do some work. And for him, he didn't know what the pharmaceutical industry was. He came down here, met the team, had to move. And he's, really embraced it, and and he does everything and anything. I remember him saying to me, he said, "Oh, so can you tell me what day-to-day activities will be?" And I explained some of them. And then, I don't know, 6 months later, he was building a balloon arch in the office. And I said, I did tell you every day would be different and he'd be doing different things. And I think, he kind of really just thought this is a great opportunity, good challenge, and he's kind of grasped it with both hands. But for him, it was opportunistic, the fact that, again, he came through a network because someone in the company recommended him and, gave it a go. So completely agree, Craig, it is really difficult to get into the industry.
So we've got a couple more comments coming back from that. So Paul saying, I think it depends the type of role. He started in pharma analytics with no previous pharma experience. And I did tell this story last week, but I know he got the job off the back of my mum referring him. So he had some business analysis experience in the financial services. And he had the interview with Paul and Claire Crowley.
Yes.
They asked what pharmaceutical knowledge he had, and he said he watched Casualty. Fortunately, they found it funny and gave him the job. Okay, and then Alison is saying she worked as head of HR in healthcare with no pharma experience, although within the context of supply chain, so I wouldn't say it's always necessary. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alison. And then Tina saying, once you're in, it's hard to get out. And then there's a bit of laughter going on. Brilliant. Thank you. Right, it's good to have all this chat going on. So what is it then, Lottie, about the pharma industry that's kept you there and wanting you to progress to the senior levels?
So as I said, it's just when I got into it, it was opportunistic, really fun culture. I worked for 2 German companies who were really similar in their culture and the fact, you worked hard, you play hard in your 20s. It was brilliant, But seriously, I think, we all have morals and values. And I think working in pharmaceuticals, I know that the work I do improves patients' lives, and that impacts us all, hey, because we might not have our own health conditions and we might be quite healthy at the time, but we all know someone who needs the interventions of pharmaceuticals to, either cure something or to improve their quality of life. And I think that really resonates with me around, I do feel that we can make a difference. And I've worked across lots of disease areas and across the years. And, the pharmaceutical industry generally, that, it's an espoused vision and mission of a companies, but they do mean it. And they will, always try and do what they can for patients where possible. And then I think, over the years, it's just given me so much personal growth, and I really like learning and the variety as well of it. As I said, like my first role, to go and get up in the mornings and go and see doctors. Some days you wouldn't see anyone because you had to create your own work. Other days you had lots of activity, and that would lead to it's up to you to turn that into more activity with customers. So it's always given me the kind of opportunity to grow. And then I finally, and these aren't in priority order, I think they're all quite equal. It's the people I've met. Tina said it's hard to get out of it, and Paul talked about the big network that there is. So although it's a large industry, it's still quite small. And I've just met such phenomenal people along the way, and people that have championed me. So, I've had opportunities to go into roles because I know they've championed me. And I'm forever grateful that, and I've just met some great friends along the way. BI and at Bayer, where I started my career, it's lifelong friends.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. There's a couple more comments going on there. So Craig was saying, great answer, thanks, Lottie. So that was in relation to getting into pharma. And then he's just remembered that I'm here. So hi, Craig. And then we've got Tim saying, I also worked in supply chain in pharma, fascinating and complex. I had worked in supply chain previously, main difference of the controls.
Yeah. And also just, there's a whole framework called GDP, which is good distribution practice. And, you've got to make sure your products, you comply by the GDP framework, and that your products are, fit for market and, follow. And it's really rigorous. People don't, I think, understand well, they wouldn't need to, hey, but understand
Yeah.
that if you weren't involved in it.
Yeah. No, that's good. And so now Paul's asking a question. I think everyone's got questions for you, Lottie. So what's been your favourite role in pharma, Lottie? And sorry for the difficult question, he says.
Yeah, no, it's difficult because I always, whatever I do, I always try and throw myself into it. I would say like my time at Boehringer was great, and I had a key role at Boehringer, a key position at Boehringer, which was, I can elaborate on a moment, where I worked on a transformational change program. But I was actually say, like where I am now, and I don't know whether it's because you're in the moment, like the role I'm in now, I absolutely love. And there's so many reasons as well. So maybe I take time to explain it, but like, I was at Abbott, and I got made redundant while I was on my maternity leave, my third. Completely hysterical, I was the main breadwinner, and I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I'm on mat leave, and I'd just gone back from mat leave, so they did wait till I got back, but I got made redundant, and then I was just like, oh my gosh, and there was an element of desperation. I was just like, get a job. I know I spent some time with you. You helped me, work out to use LinkedIn to try and sell myself, my CV and everything. And I had a few jobs that I was thinking about, and then applications, and then obviously COVID struck. So this was in 2020, and everyone's world got turned upside down, didn't they? And everyone had a different experience, but I had 3 small young children, a husband that worked in intensive care, and a military doctor. So I remember putting on the washing line one day his scrubs and his army uniform, because he was doing, working so hard. And I just think, gosh, if I hadn't been made redundant, I would have left Abbott, because there's no way I would have been able to manage the 3 children at home, a husband, and different things. So, it gave me time to just be at home, and had a good time. So it's funny how life works, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah.
And then, but I still had these these job applications going on, and so many of them, just were the feedback I was getting going, well, we're going to wait and see what happens during COVID, and we're in lockdown, and they want to meet you. And I had an application. I know Darren Spevik commented on, when we were advertising this. Darren Spevik was the recruiting manager for a role at Troutner, and I met him, and it was quite clear that I was a wild card for the role. So both him and I did a great job. I obviously selling ourselves, so I got the job. But what I loved about it was because Graham and Charlotte, who I work with, and they were the recruiting managers, they knew, they said, this role's so important. It's not ideal that we're going to have to recruit you virtually and onboard you on virtually, but we feel we can do it. And this role's so important that we want to continue with the application. I was like, this is a company I want to work for, because they know what they want, and they're getting on with it and implementing it. My time at Abbott, I had like a massive P&L that I managed. I didn't manage it. It was all just, because, well, I didn't, because, there was all these people around me, and I couldn't make a decision. Whereas I was just like, this is what I want to do. And I wanted to move to a small pharmaceutical company, medium-sized pharma company for this. And I was like, yeah. So anyway, so I started working with them, and, and thoroughly enjoyed the work, working with Lindsay, Charlotte and Graham. There was pretty much the 4 of us working together to grow the organization, still managing through the through the COVID, and I've been taken on to try and kind of dual roles, really, look after the UK business, but then also see how we can expand into Europe. I didn't do much of the second, because I spent so much time focusing on the UK business, and that's why I then moved into the UK general manager for Troutner in December 2020. And, so I love, I've already talked, I love the work. I love the products that we have. We definitely make a difference with the products that we have. And then it's the people here. So, Charlotte Phelps has just been an inspirational role model for me. Graham is just, always there for me, a great sounding board. And neither of them let me fail. and what a great environment to be in, and we would sit and have a cup of tea and make decisions, and I'd be like, walk to my office going, this was taking me 6 weeks to get this,
wow, yeah.
or,
Yeah.
3 months to get a decision on this, applying for a price for a product, from the NHS. And I was just like, this is just so enlightening. I feel so empowered.
Yeah.
And that's continued. So although Droutman is, now merged with Nordic Pharma and I'm general manager, I need to reset the culture for the, we're in the middle of a merger. And, these are the things that I want us to keep is, still that entrepreneurial spirit, empowering people to make decisions and, have a concept and see it through to implementation. It's really important for me.
Yeah.
So I hope you can hear my passion as,
Definitely.
really, people probably saying, you might say, oh, where do you want to be in like 5 years time? Like, I'm quite happy doing this until, I'm finished work,
Yeah.
It's great. Brilliant.
Thank you, Lottie. So we're starting to run short on time now, which I thought we would do, to be honest, because there's so much to talk about. But you mentioned Boehringer briefly, but I think probably I was thinking of Boehringer as well, because this was the big chunk of time when we were running together, weren't we? So I saw you go through lots of different roles there, all purposeful. So how did you go about deciding on those roles at Boehringer, which ones you were going to go for and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so like I said at Boehringer, I grew up at Boehringer in my work. So I left Bayer, they were going through some changes, and I'd been made a training manager at Bayer, and then there's a few changes and kind of my role changed. I was just like, well, no, I want to still be a trainer. The position was to go back to being hospital representative, and it's like, oh no, I really want to be a trainer. So I applied for a role at Boehringer, got it. It was for a launch of a new product. So really enjoyed that. And then some opportunities came up. So Amanda, I spoke about recently, she was the lady that helped me with the advice on the career, and she's been always a champion of mine through my career, and I owe a lot to her. She went on mat leave and her sales management role came up, and I did a secondment. And then she moved to cover it. And then she got promoted to like a national sales manager, took her role. So I did put myself forward for a few roles, but some of it was then the biggest, I think, I kind of think what changed, at Boehringer. And I think there's two things. One, I became the lead for a product that we were launching, and I was a hospital manager, so managing a team of hospital representatives. It's a long story, but it wasn't performing. And, I got asked to present in front of the senior leadership team and the country manager. And I was like, it was tricky because I told my manager why I didn't think it was working and nothing happened. I was like, I need to be brave and courageous here, and really probably say how it is, which I did. And that was a turning point, because I think then the country manager then saw something in me, I think, at that point. And it wasn't long after that then I was, he and the HR director, and again, another champion, Adam, had said, would I lead this transformational change program? And you would have been counselling me on runs. I
remember, yes.
No idea what I was doing, Yeah. And again, the company was amazing. They loads of resources, and I worked with a lady called Dr. Mian Chung Judge. She's unfortunately passed away. She was phenomenal, and I grew so much in the 2 to 3 years I worked with her. And another lady, Jane Sharples, helped me grow my commercial mind as well. But so I started this transformational program. No one knew what we were doing. It was like, but I had to be always 2 steps ahead of everyone. It was using the power of the people to come up with the solutions to some macro environmental issues that were happening, and we didn't know how or what we should respond. But yes, it was great. I mean, honestly though, I found it so difficult because I was like, I think the HR director knows the answer, and yet I don't. And but I learnt loads, and I worked with Tanya, who's dialed in. We kind of, as a group, as a company, we designed the changes, and I led the implementation of it. So that was brilliant. So I moved into that. And then just to, I suppose, to finalise my time at Boehringer and why I kind of, while I was at Boehringer, before I knew about this role, I decided that I wanted to do an MBA, and I had been at crossroads in my life, career, and you helped me through it. And I was just like, do I want to be a people manager and move into HR, or do I want to stay in the commercial side? And I decided I wanted to stay in commercial. So I did my MBA with and the company said, yeah, you do your MBA, help fund it, and also gave me loads of data to help. So I hadn't anticipated in the same month starting this new job, and I found it so tough. But looking back, I had so much collateral in doing that new job that I was able to use in my MBA. And then skip forward a few years, on mat leave on my second child, and I was kind of looking at what my position was going to be coming back to work, and my position wasn't there, or there was reasons that I couldn't go back to it, and the company was trying to force me down the HR side, and said, we see you as an HR director in years to come, we want you to do HR exams. And I was like, I reviewed this years ago, I've done my MBA, I want to be commercial, which is, and I started looking for different roles, and then moved to Abbott. But so I did put myself forward, for many roles in Boehringer, but that kind of leading the transformational change, obviously I didn't apply for it, I was kind of asked to lead it, and it just helped me so much. I mean, the stuff I learned on that course, I use in that role, I use every single day.
Oh, that's really good. And I put the question up because, what was it like studying for the MBA whilst you were in full-time employment and with your young family, and your husband was studying his doctor exams at the same time, wasn't it? And we were marathon training. And so Mel, who I ran with this morning, said to me, oh, when you talk to Lottie, you've got to ask her how she does it all. So how did you? Was it? I mean, I know you didn't sleep very much, but
and I don't know, actually. I mean, I've got pretty high resilience. Sometimes people see that as a negative because they expect me to, I expect people to just get on with things because I would. But obviously good friends out on a run kept me sane. But I mean, we decided not to have children until I'd finished my MBA. And then so my third year, because I did it over 3 years, obviously, I obviously fell pregnant with Evie, and then I was going to finish my dissertation on mat leave before she arrived, but she came early, so that didn't happen. So that was the hardest bit, I think, being on mat leave with a brand new baby, trying to finish my dissertation. I mean, I've got an extension, but it was still tricky because I checked out on it a bit. My husband will still claim that he wrote my dissertation. If he ever watches this, there's no way he did. He edited it for me, but he tells everyone that he's got an MBA, flipping it. So so it's tricky, isn't it? You find a way through it, managing it all. Like I said, Boehringer were brilliant in helping me support it, and I was able to use a lot of the work and the project that I was leading as collateral for my MBA assignments.
Excellent. Right, we are running short, so I'm going to just have a quick look at the comments. So we've got quite a few coming through, actually. So Alison, actually, this is one of the questions I was going to ask Lottie anyway, so let's go with that. So any advice for people trying to get into pharma? Is there specifics they look for skills-wise?
Gosh, that's a good question. So generally, I think, I know Craig asked earlier, and said that it's difficult to get into. It is, because I think there's I think before they would recruited a lot more generalists, whereas now they're recruiting a lot more technical experts. So I think, if I look at digital, pharmaceutical industry had to quickly learn how to use digital marketing capabilities because of COVID. Before they would have many representatives, 200, 300, 400 people going out to see customers, whereas obviously that had to stop. So they had to quickly, and I still think they're probably a bit behind. When I look at if you look at fast moving goods, and yes, it's what they can do, it's different, but they're ahead. So I think they're looking for more technical expertise, And I would say actually they now probably, company, we certainly do. We look at people who have got different expertise. I don't look for people who've got big pharma, because I don't feel, that yes, they have good discipline, they've been trained on how to write a marketing plan, but I want someone who's done something a bit different, who might also have a bit of commercial experience or that digital experience, or might have run their own eBay shop for a bit, and can transfer some of that to the workplace. Yes, and then I think it will be, generally people that, it's a hard question, as I feel like I'm not really answering it.
No, you are. You're talking about the kind of this almost skills gap that you've got now, and the transferable skills. And I think that point about the eBay shop, that's excellent, because people wouldn't think of that is a transferable skill. So I think that you need to really look at what you've been doing and how that could work, and how you can help solve a problem in the organisation you're going for.
Yeah, and I think also, like, so many people just look at all the big names and try and go for, a job in the big companies. And I just think you'll learn so much more. And I gave the example about Joe, that was the reason for telling the story, was you'll learn so much more in a smaller organisation. You have to be a bit of a jack of all trades, because, I had 30 people in the UK in our business. When I was at Abbott, I had 30 people on my team, it was 20,000 people worldwide, just completely different. So I think, it's people who, I definitely look for people who are doers, and for people who can take the initiative, and, maybe work with, maybe, it's not always quite clear, and can manage uncertainty. And think, okay, I kind of get the idea what they want, and I'll go away and work with a few scenarios up. And so yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point as well, to maybe look for the less known brands as well, or organisations, rather than going for the big ones, because as you say, you're going to learn quite a lot, aren't you, from being exposed to all those different areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so John's saying it's wonderful to hear the passion and personal experiences in your story. Thank you, John. So John came on my second week, actually. So he's based in Chicago. He works in supply chain logistics. And Tanya is saying Lottie was fantastic to work with at BI and a great role model. So thank you. That's lovely to hear.
That's kind, Tanya.
George, Lottie, I still use some of those things you taught us all as part of a project. Start slow, go fast, bring in different voices, trust the team. There you go.
This morning, George, I said to a colleague, you might have to be slow to go fast.
Alison, okay, there's a chat going on between Craig and Alison, obviously. Charlotte saying, I've always loved your passion, energy, inspirational lady, great talk, Lottie, a real life superwoman, excellent. Jeff, thanks for the great information, good times at BI. Okay, right, they're having a chat again now. Okay, right, so in the interest of time, we'll just quickly start wrapping up. So you've touched on values already, Lottie, but everyone I've spoken to is about how important their values are when they're looking for work. So would you agree, do your personal values have an impact on the type of organisation or role that you'll take on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I said about Droughtnir, it's a fit for me here, and it's really important. I've been, I haven't touched upon Abbott, and for me, the values of the organisation didn't fit, and I just didn't enjoy working there. I look back now, and my memories are dark, and they're not in colour, and so you can hear that where my values have matched that of the organisation, because you can hear the passion in my voice. So and I think so. And so then how do you distill what those values are for me? So I think it's around people who want to work together, and want to progress work, and and like I say, in a collaborative approach, and everyone thinks that the leadership team and the people who are at the top of the they all know the answers. We don't know the answers, but but I like working for an organisation that's happy to try and find the answers, and learn along the way. And that's one thing about Nordic Pharma and the Droughtnir. It's definitely a learning organisation, and having that agility to be able to do it. So there's key values. So it's kind of it's the work you do. And like I said, I like working for pharmaceutical industry, knowing I'm improving people's health and or their family's health and quality of life. But then it's the people I work with and the work that you do.
Brilliant, thank you. And what's next for you in your work, do you know?
Yeah, so as I said, you know, like I love doing what I'm doing. I've got like going through a merger of the two organisations, and it's funny because people in you know, in Group, which are based in Paris and in Hofdorf in Holland, they're like, oh, if you finish the integration, I'm like, my goodness, you know, we've got people in roles, whether, you know, everyone's doing exactly the right things in roles, we've still got, you know, some evolving around that to do, but, you know, we're still on different offices, we've got different IT systems, you know, so much needs to be done. So, and I love all that kind of, you know, diagnosing and re-engineering. So, and I love a process. So yes, that's looking forward to, you know, I could easily see, you know, being here for a number of years quite happily. There, you know, my own advice, not the next role on. There's a couple of roles that I would quite like to do if I feel that I've got, you know, enough time in my career to do, and that would be, you know, probably doing what I do but on a larger scale. So looking at, you know, more of a commercial role, trying to, you know, orchestrate activities of an area such as Europe or something like that. But that's one of my like.
Excellent.
But we'll see.
We'll see. Oh, I've no doubt, Lotty, that you'll do it. So Alison saying, thanks, ladies, love your energy both. Thank you. Craig saying, another great show, Sarah. You're making a habit out of this. Great show, ladies. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you very much for coming on. It's been really interesting. It's been great to see all this chat. I feel like there's been a bit of a Boehringer reunion been going on. So you'll be able to go in later on if you want to and kind of answer people if you want within the comments. So yes, thank you for coming on. So for the next I've got people booked up till the middle of May, so talking about different things. I'm actually back tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to be chatting to Karen Tisdale, who is a LinkedIn profile writer based in Sydney. So she very rarely connects with people outside of Australia. So that's going to be the first question tomorrow about why that is. But fortunately, she has connected with me. And then next Thursday, slightly different format. I'm at a live networking event, so I'm going to be live from there, talking to a few people. So John Asperian, Jane Eggers, Melanie Goodman, Lois Cliff, Kate Chidsick, and actually Paul is going to be there, so I'll talk to him as well for a few minutes. So that's next week. And now Paul's saying BI reunion, there's an idea. Brilliant. Okay, so, well, thank you again, everyone. And if you have got any other questions, please do feel free to put them in the comments and we will catch them later on. So thank you for watching and see you next time. Thanks, Lotty.
Pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Nice comments. Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.